it take a great deal more than television, radio, movies, automobiles, and everything else put together to make them keep away from good books. Well, I'll say that bravely enough, but also, as you may have noticed, I have kept one anchor to windward by getting onto a television program of my own. This television program has taken up a surprisingly and rather exasperatingly large part of my life lately. Whereas once I was able to go out into the marketplace and have people come up to me and say, "What kind of a fellow is William Faulkner?" Or "What do you think of the plays of Eugene O'Neill that you publish?" Today, all they want to hear is, "What kind of a girl is Dorothy Kilgallen?" Or, "Tell me, Mr. Cerf, is that program really on the level?" Well, for your information, for those of you who watch What's My Line, I would like to promise you, with everything I have to say, all sincerity, that the What's My Line program is spontaneous and on the level. None of us are good enough actors to simulate ignorance of facts that we already know. That is one of the most difficult tricks in the acting profession. If we really knew the answers to these questions, those of you who watch that program week after week would know very quickly that we were faking. We couldn't hide it from the public, which sees all and knows all on television. Occasionally, we get hints from the audience that comes to watch us. Don't forget that the theater is full every Sunday night with a lot of people who are watching the program. And if you happen to hit upon the right track, they don't realize it, but a murmur runs through that audience. It only takes 25 people to whisper to the people they're with, they're on the right track. And that murmur reaches us. And we've been playing this game now so long that we've gotten rather proficient at it. And we can hear that murmur very clearly, and then we know we're ready for the kill. And how Miss Kilgallen does move in for that kill, incidentally. We only have 2 or 3 signals on the program. You may observe once in a while that Mr. John Daly, the moderator, pulls his ear once in a while. That means we're getting into dangerous territory. And we are supposed to change our line of thought. We all pay close attention to that signal, except, of course, Mr. Hal Block, who is usually encouraged to fresh outbursts by it. There is one other signal, too, before I wind up about What's My Line. Whenever Mr. Daly says, for the last contestant, we only have 3 or 4 minutes left, that doesn't mean really hurry. That means, for the love of Mike, don't guess it right away, because we've got 3 or 4 minutes that we must round out the program with. There is nothing worse than dead time on radio or television. A 10-second blank seems like an hour to the people who are listening. Well, another good part to me of What's My Line is that it's a wonderful source of new stories for me, because all these contestants who come in from all over the country and the mystery guests that we have every Sunday night usually stand around after the show, and we often go out and have a cup of coffee together, and the result is I come home with 3 or 4 more stories to add to my collection, which eventually find their way into the surfboard column or trade winds, and then into books like Good for a Laugh. For instance, we had on our program 3 or 4 weeks ago a young lady who taught expectant fathers how to behave when the babies came. She was quite a clever girl, and I was delighted because I guessed her profession. It only proved again what a tough job we have on that What's My Line panel. When we guess people, everybody says the program is fixed. When we don't guess them, they say, "Well, what kind of experts are you? Why don't you get somebody who knows how to do this?" But when we went out with this girl after dinner, she told me a story that applies to British health stations that I think you may enjoy. At least I made a note of it immediately for my collection. It seems that with this public socialized medicine, things have gotten to such a state in Great Britain that the most serious matters medically are treated in a rather casual way. For instance, there was this perfectly lovely young married lady in London who suddenly suspected, for good reason, that she was about to produce an heir. And she went to the public health station to have this fact verified. To her amazement, the doctor merely glanced at her and said, "Yes, my dear, it's quite true, you're going to have a baby." And he went over to the window and took a rubber stamp, stamped it on a rubber pad, and stamped the lady's abdomen and sent her home. She explained this strange affair to her husband when he came home, and he said, "Well, that's a rather puzzling way to act. What does it say?" And she said, "Well, I can't read it. It's upside down for me." So the husband tried to read it, but the type was too small. So he got a magnifying glass, and he put the magnifying glass on it, and all that the rubber stamp said was, "When you can read this without a magnifying glass, take your wife to the hospital." Well,